Welcome to your daily dose of theological German. We're starting a new excerpt today from Helmut Ziefle's graded theological German reader. And the excerpt is taken from Adolf Schlatter, the Evangelist John, or John the Evangelist might be a better sounding English title. Anyway, we'll be looking at an excerpt which deals with John 1:29. So let's hop to it. The first part of the Jewish worship system of worship, you might say, or you could even say religion, concerning which John says that it must become new, and through Jesus has become new, is the offering or the sacrifice. This is an interesting sentence in German. It has all of the characteristics of a German sentence that you have been taught, perhaps, to fear. Mainly being that there's just like a lot of phrases and clauses and you don't know what's happening and your verb is hiding way down near the end and yet still somehow kind of in second position. And so I just want to quickly show you how you might get around that. If you start reading and you can't find a verb and you start to lose the train of thought, which is very likely to happen in a sentence like this, what you might want to do is actually just kind of move ahead till you find the verb, which is here. It is a sein verb, and you actually discover, hey, this sentence is actually an equative clause, ultimately. And so then just take that out and realize that what all of those other clauses were doing was modifying the subject. So your subject, the first part of the Jewish religion, gets modified by all of these other things, but it's ultimately in an equative statement with is the sacrifice. So the first part of Jewish religion is the sacrifice. And the modification here is going to lead you to believe, since it says the first part, is going to lead you to believe that perhaps John has said many things must become new. And the first part of Jewish religion that he said that about is the sacrifice. I want to take a quick look at some of these other clauses, though, because they have important features in them as well. So the first thing I want to point out here is that you have a compound word. Now, if you were to look this up in your dictionary, you would actually find that it is listed there as a compound word, and it would give you a translation, something like worship or worship service or something like that. I translated it as religion. I think it's important to go ahead and just, parse this out because you'll see the kind of nuance that you're getting at. So here is where it's going to divide, and the first half meaning something like, of course, God, obviously, what else does it mean? But the second half would be coming from the word dienen, which means something like to serve, or in religious contexts, to worship. So you might hear say the service of God, right? Is how you would normally put a compound together kind of genitivally like that, the service of God. So I said religion because I have in mind religion in the sense of a system of worship practices associated with a particular God. But it's important to parse it out and get that nuance because, of course, I don't mean religion in an abstract sense. When you think about the service of God, you're talking about things that would include something like, down here you see offering and or sacrifice. And so I think it's still useful to kind of pay attention to that to get the right nuance of what it is that you're talking about and how it is that the different parts of the sentence conceptually are fitting together. What else can we say about this sentence? Well, we have some things going on here in these subordinate clauses that we just want to make sure we're getting properly set up here. So one is you've got a relative pronoun here. So this is going to be concerning which I did translate that way. And then you have all of this stuff down here in this next clause. Here we had a modal auxiliary, and so just pay attention to that because that's going to be complemented by an infinitive, which is here before it because this is your conjugated verb as an auxiliary, and it comes at the end of that clause. Now, technically, you have two clauses there joined by und, and so this is the end of the first clause, and so it has the conjugated verb because it is a subordinate clause because it is filling out what it is that John has said. So the conjugated verb comes at the end, which means the infinitive complement is going to come right before it, and that is just the verb to become, right? And so it must become new. And then in the second one, the same thing. Your conjugated verb actually is sein, and it comes just before now a participial form, and not just that, but the past participle. And so what you're actually dealing with here, geworden, is always used to mean something like has been. And so this sein verb here is actually functioning as an auxiliary to form a perfect construction. And so that's why I said through Jesus has become you might say, has been made, or something like that. But yeah, so I hope you find that helpful, and we'll see you tomorrow.